I'm your Dungeon Master, Scott Forsyth, and welcome to Forsyth Fantasy Hour Recaps. FFH Recaps tell the summarized story of the different campaigns told throughout Forsyth Fantasy Hour. This recap focuses on episodes 19 through 23 of Hilltopper and Pilgrim Season 1, and these episodes conclude the very first season of the show in one exciting and explosive finale. After Emmy, Jack, and Roderick defeated Jarrus Click, the Insect Glaive's tech expert, and shut down the Wellforged design, they began to head back to their home base, Sundew. It's just then that they noticed that their special magic items that came from the Wellforged design lost their power, becoming mundane and standard items. To make things worse, the officers from District 6 who were sent to check out this forge found out Emmy and Jack had lied to them and withheld their knowledge of the forges. So the party was arrested and District 6 started taking them back to Sixport. So within a District 6 police wagon, our heroes, along with Jarrus, were traveling close to Sundew when they heard a loud noise. At the town's entrance, multiple figures were seen. The largest was a 20-foot-tall monster made of stone. It was Irva Moonkaren, the hostess from the Barbarians' Ball. The wagon stopped and the officers called their department. Just then, Emmy and Jack received separate calls from Ander Alexander Stormborn and Mayor Quentin on their communicators. Ander and Quentin were warning Emmy and Jack of an attack from the Insect Glaive happening in Sundew. The Glaive was assaulting the town to get Sylvian Valgeld back, the Insect Glaive member the party had been holding captive for a couple months now. Also, since communication was broken off with Sylvian, the Glaive expedited their attack. Now, Ander and Quentin had very different approaches to handling the Glaive, with Emmy and Jack having to side with one of them. In the end, and in traditional FFH fashion, they didn't side with either, and told them to wait to deal with the Glaive until Emmy and Jack could get back into Sundew. Using some of the items in Jarrus' bag, Emmy, Jack, and Roderick, who was carrying a tied-up Jarrus, escaped from the officers and made their way into the backside of Sundew. While rummaging through Jarrus' bag, the party found an item of interest. It was an unfinished device which resembled a mechanical gear, which was called a siphon stone. The most interesting part of this was Jarrus had a horrified reaction when the party saw this, but he never told the heroes what it exactly does. After a while, Emmy and Jack got into the center of Sundew, and they saw Ander alone challenging the Insect Glaive. Emmy and Jack were spotted, but Roderick was able to hide with Jarrus undetected. The Insect Glaive made it known that they wanted Sylvian back, and they would take him by force or trade him for the hostage that they had. Gray Orange, Jack's close friend who got himself captured when trying to go back to Sixport. The person leading this assault was Zorva, the woman Jack met at the abandoned hotel. The other villains that were there were Elliot, Emmy's childhood friend who has seemed to be brainwashed again. The stone creatures from the ball were there, now including a stone version of Nicholas Stormborn, who got turned after Emmy and Jack left him for dead, and Zert, the Burnt Knight, the one Glaive member the party hadn't met yet. So, tensions were high, and our heroes agreed to make the trade-off. Quietly, Emmy asked Ander where Quentin was, and Ander said that they were doing things without him. Just then, Ander launched a surprise attack on the Glaive, with the help from Droopy and Spleen, causing a massive fight to break out. Amidst the fight, Zorva and Nicholas were gravely injured. Spleen was attacked and turned to stone, and Jack was able to grab Gray. However, it seemed like Ander's plan wasn't going the way he expected. Some of the weapons he wanted to use didn't work as intended or would just break down. This was because of the Wellforged of design. The Forge had enchanted these weapons, and since Emmy and Jack shut it down, all of the items that came from it, or were enchanted by it, lost their power, as we learned earlier. With the surprise attack going poorly, things looked grim. But Quentin came to everyone's rescue, dressed in departed Guardian's gear, revealing himself to be one of the last surviving members of the Order. Quentin told Zorva that they could find Sylvian far outside of Sundew at a drop-off point. and that they're welcome to go get him there and get out of town. With our heroes now having the upper hand and seeing no other option, the Glaive agreed and left for Sundew. But they kept Elliot there so that someone from our group could go with him to the drop-off point. Quentin agreed to the terms, and once the Glaive was gone, he asked for everyone to meet with him inside the manor. So, Mayor Quentin, or Quentin Shortmarsh as he's known, explained to the party that he was a part of an older generation of guardians and has been keeping a watch on Emmy and Jack. As we find out, Quentin was the one who sent the letter to Jack's home a while ago, and was the person who told Astrid about sending him to Sundew. Quentin was especially interested in Jack because he knew Paladin Pilgrim, Jack's fallen friend. And the only reason Quentin didn't die alongside the Paladin in that massive attack was because Quentin was on a mission to find a new location for their base when that whole attack happened. And now, Quentin wants to rebuild the departed Guardians and believes Emmy and Jack will be good fits for starting this group. After Quentin explains his story, he says he wants everyone to split up and stop the insect glaive. Quentin believes the glaive is making a move on the Primordial Forge, a well forge a few miles north of Sundew, and the one that's been causing all the stone creatures. While one group goes up north, he wants someone to go off to the drop-off point. He wants someone to stay back and protect Sundew. And Quentin wants the rest to go back to the Wellforge design to retrieve another set of gauntlets that have been hidden away. A pair that Emmy will wear, making her an official departed guardian. For the Guardian's gauntlets are the only way to drain and destroy the power within a Wellforge. Now, before anyone can decide to go anywhere, Roderick steps up and moves over to the Smorb, Jack's map for Wellforges, and he taps it with his nose. Since a Wellforge cursed Roderick with a poison long ago, another Wellforge pops up on the map. And guess what? It's close to the drop-off point. They agree that whoever goes to the drop-off point should go to this forge and probably shut it down. And in another turn of events, Emmy realizes she is able to use a powerful spell to restore Roderick, lifting the curse from him. Just then, the District 6 officers from earlier walk into Sundew, changing everyone's plans. And in short, Emmy, Jack, and Gray go back to Weapons and Gear to retrieve the new gauntlets. At Weapons and Gear, they're able to talk to Big Brutus Stonecutter again and check up on him and the other brothers. Now, their time is cut short with more District 6 officers coming to inspect the factory and the forge. So while Brutus handles them, the party goes to go find the gauntlets. The party is able to acquire the gauntlets for Emmy, as well as learn more about the Stonecutter family and their ties to the Wellforges, along with reading about and briefly meeting Emmy's guardian mentor, a spiritual guide every guardian has that trains their students even if they are gone or departed. However, someone breaks into the factory to retrieve a siphon stone, the gear-like device Jack found earlier. This person is Zorva, and she knocks out all the District 6 officers and takes Matic and Gordy Stonecutter as mind-controlled hostages. Emmy, Jack, and Gray grab Brutus, who wasn't captured, and leave the factory. While out of the factory, they get a call from Chief Moxie, the head police chief, who says that she's with Quentin and knows everything, and most importantly, is on their side. When Moxie and Falone entered Sundew, Quentin and Roderick were able to explain to them what has been happening with the departed Guardians, with the insect glaive, and with Jack and Emmy. Now with District 6 on their side, Moxie and Quentin were heading to the drop-off point to arrest Sylvian Velgeld. They were also going to go to the forge near the drop-off to show further proof to Moxie that they aren't making any of this up. So with that being taken care of, the party heads back to Sundew once again, and learns that the rest of the insect glaive is hiding out at Tiger Turtle Canyon, and is trying to use the forge that is there. And because of the new information that was given to District 6, they were not only arresting Sylvian Velgeld, but they have arrested Jairus Click and Elliot, now understanding that Elliot is under mind control. So, now that half of the insect glaive has been taken care of, the party, with help from District 6, marched to Tiger Turtle Canyon to capture the rest of the glaive. Our heroes left in the dead of the night, and unfortunately, the glaive got the jump on them, using the stone creatures against them, causing a huge and hectic battle with many of the officers beginning to turn into the creatures. Now, Emmy, Jack, Droopy, along with Brutus, were able to break away from the fighting and went down into the canyon towards the forge. The entrance to the forge was broken down, as the Hive King, the leader of the Glaive, was already down there. And guarding the gate was Zert, the Burnt Knight, a mysterious force who gave the party a lot of trouble. Luckily, they were able to get past them and entered the Primordial Forge. The Primordial Forge was a long room that had 2 staircases across from each other. The main staircase leading into a fountain of magical power that moved upward like a backwards waterfall. In this fountain were magical stones, and these little rocks looked like the same one from the Barbarian's Ball. What was also notable about the room is it would change conditions matching the elements of earth, wind, fire, and water. And every time the room changed element, the stone would change, matching the element the room had currently went to. And at the top of the stairs was the Hive King. He was collecting different stones, finding the ones with the most power. He was causing the forge to use more and more of its power so that his siphon stone could drain it forcefully. You see, the purpose of the siphon stone was to let the Glaive use its power outside of the forge and allow them to contain this power without using the departed Guardian's gauntlets. And because so much power was coming from this forge, the canyon started to quake, ripping the earth around them. While this was happening, the Hive King calmly talked with Jack and Emmy, stalling for time while the siphon stone did its work. After a while, the party knew there was no reasoning with him and fought back. Through many struggles, Emmy and Jack were able to leap into the forge and together drain its power, overriding the siphon stone and shutting down the forge for good. Realizing he was beaten, the Hive King surrendered, while Zorva and Zert, the Burnt Knight, evaded capture. With the forge shut down, all of the stone creatures returned to normal, so people like Spleen and the District 6 officers were safe, and even the other villains like Irva and Nicholas were turned back to normal as well. And with that, the day was saved. Now, before we learn what happens to Emmy, Jack, and Quentin, I want to give a little epilogue for some of the other characters. So, now that Roderick has returned to his true form, he has plans and ghosts from his past that need to be taken care of. So, for the moment, he will not be joining Emmy and Jack on their quest. Ander and Spleen will be working together to rebuild Sundew, and to keep everything in order while our heroes are out adventuring. And since their primary source of income is shut down, the Stonecutter brothers will be helping in Sundew as well. Then there's Grey Orange, who is leaving his vigilante life behind, and is joining District 6. He'll be working directly under Chief Moxie and Lieutenant Falone. District 6 will also be conducting tests on Gray, Maddock, Gordy, and Elliot in hopes to reverse the different brainwashing and mind control that the insect Glaive put them through. And finally, there's Droopy, the adorable goblin child. He will be joining Emmy and Jack on their new adventures. You see, Quentin took the 3 of them to a remote location outside the South Coast province. In a hidden bunker underneath an old chapel is the new base they'll be working/living in for the next 8 months. Now, they're not the only ones living here. Their other team members are the rest of Jack's family, Astrid, Nyx, and Ophelia. Together, they'll be working as the next generation of the departed Guardians, as well as working with some other consultants, one of them including Emmy's father, Edward. All of this will be happening in Season 2 of Hilltopper and Pilgrim. Thanks for watching.